Everything you do has a physical and mental component. This is pretty obvious to us today and widely accepted, but in 1974, Timothy Gallwey's The Inner Game of Tennis was remarkable in being a book about the mental side of life written by someone with a sporting background. This book is truly amazing and has so many valuable insights about improving the mental side of your life. And even though it is centered around tennis, it can be used as a guide to peak performance in any discipline. I actually got the recommendation from an actress who said that it was her favorite acting book. To understand the idea of inner game, you first have to understand what Gallwey calls the two selves. There's a coach and a player in your mind, and we will call the coach self 1 and the player self 2. Now, this coach is your ego and your thoughts. Self 1 is that little voice in your head criticizing or complimenting your plays, your conscious self that tells you to do stuff. Now the player, self 2, is the unconscious you. It's your awareness and your connection to your body. When a cat leaps at a bird, it's not consciously thinking about how it explodes off its hind legs or how the bird will taste if it's caught. The cat's mind is purely self 2, experiencing the present as it jumps for the bird. Now Gallwey believes that your inner game, the skill that underlies your performance and your ability to improve your external mechanics, is determined by the relationship between your self 1 and your self 2. He believes that instructions and conscious thinking get in the way of our nature-given ability to perform well. The more you use your self 1 to try to focus on doing a specific thing, the worse you perform. You tighten up. Let's say you're in a 1v1 and you whiff completely. You might think something like, wow, awful crosshair placement. Next time, focus on keeping your crosshair up. That kind of verbal self-talk is your self 1, your ego, trying to control your self 2. What normally arises from trying to force yourself to do something with proper technique is that you end up doing it worse. Your grip on your mouse comes to your mind. Your brain is intensely focused on your crosshair placement. You tighten up, and the next time an enemy peeks you, so much of your mental energy is on your crosshair that they kill you before you react. Trying to force yourself to do something using your conscious self never works out well. As an exercise right now, I want you to try to stop thinking about your tongue. Your conscious brain just can't do it. Now that I brought up your tongue, trying to stop thinking about it only directs your self to awareness to focus on how your tongue feels in your mouth, pressed against the back of your teeth. So, if trying too hard and using instructions to improve our play is wrong, then what is right? Think about one of the first things that you ever learned. Walking. When you learned to walk, you did not have an ego, a verbal self 1 telling you how your legs should be moving. Your self 2 observed the people around you, and you began moving your legs the same way that they did. At first your balance was off, but you never verbally thought to yourself, come on, focus on keeping your feet flat and your legs straight. You intuitively improved your coordination. And this is because language is a suboptimal way for humans to learn. Yes, language is very important, and without it we couldn't talk to each other. But to talk to ourselves, our brain best uses complex mental imagery to understand situations, and the comprehension of these images is done by our subconscious self. This is what Gallwey called natural learning. We are better off letting learning happen rather than forcing learning to happen. Natural learning involves getting in the zone and learning through your mind's amazing ability to improve when given a template. I'm not saying that it's not important to keep your crosshair up, but I am saying your inner critic verbalizing that repeatedly is going to slow down your progress. So we want to free our experiential self, our self 2, from our thinking self, our self 1. The book discusses 2 essential things to reducing our self 1's interference with the learning process of our self 2. First, we have to quiet our self 1. Think of the best games you've played. You might call it flow or being in the zone. Gallwey calls it relaxed concentration. The key is leaning on your self 2 rather than your self 1. During those performances, you were not actively thinking about your aim, how you grip and move and click your mouse, and verbally telling yourself to press A and D to counterstrafe. You were definitely aware of your counterstrafing and how you moved your mouse, but you weren't forcing them to happen. The best way to describe your self 1 during these games is stillness. You were not engaged in active thought, you were simply focused and executing, using your self 2. To quiet our self 1, we have to stop judging what we do. How many times do you think to yourself, I am so bad, or my aim is terrible? Well, this judgment does nothing but harm. By thinking of yourself as awful, you are activating your conscious brain, telling yourself too that there is a specific thing it should be doing that it currently isn't. As I've already said, trying to use your self-one to direct your subconscious with intention, rather than creating stillness for yourself to perform, is going to hold you back. You will try too hard and miss obvious things because your focus is shunted to one area. You can't force yourself to get in the zone. You have to let it happen by allowing your conscious mind to be still. The idea of stopping judgment applies to positive stuff as well. This might sound weird because positive thinking is very useful, but when competing, judging your own plays as good aim or great decision puts your mind in the same framework as negative thinking does. There is now a bad way to do things that you are trying to avoid consciously. Being aware without passing any judgment on your plays is the only way for you to still your mind. Normally when you're in the zone, you aren't thinking after every shot, wow, that was so good, I have to do it again. Because if you tried to force yourself to replicate this stuff and notice it as good, you would tighten up and fail to recreate it. When you're in the zone, you're simply aware of what you're doing and focused on continuing to play. Of course, you might ask, if I'm not judging what I'm doing as good or bad, how do I improve? So let's think back to learning to walk or picking up your first language. You never judged any of the mistakes you made. You simply observed them as mistakes and found out what was right. The development of the ego leads to doubt and uncertainty in your conscious self, hindering your ability to achieve relaxed concentration. Next time you lose a 1v1, instead of thinking, my crosshair placement was so awful, just notice where your crosshair was. That's it. Where on the screen was your crosshair? Don't pass any judgment about whether that was a good or bad place for your crosshair to be. Just be non-judgmentally aware and keep playing. Your brain's capacity for natural learning means that just from this awareness and the knowledge of where your crosshair should be, your crosshair placement will be better next time, and you will improve faster than if you verbalize the thought, I need my crosshair to be at head height, and focus on getting your crosshair at head height. Once you have quieted your self-one, we must now trust our self-two. I want to go back to the idea of letting flow happen rather than making it happen. Yelling at yourself to get in the zone will never let you achieve relaxed concentration. You might still be thinking about your tongue in your mouth. You have to let go and trust that what you are is enough. Just think about yourself right now watching this video. Your ears are processing a random collection of sounds at varying pitches and durations that it puts together to interpret a meaning somehow. That was all done by yourself too. When I say a word, you aren't consciously interpreting it using your self-one. Your brain's ability to see all these random pixels on your monitor and make a meaning out of them is astounding. Believing that you can just improve your spray pattern without actively thinking about how to spray, and instead relying on your internalized knowledge of how a spray works, is really simple if you consider all the crazy things your brain has learned by itself without you telling it to learn them just to get here in the first place. Using these principles, quieting yourself one and trusting yourself two, Galway created a model for improving. The normal way that we train ourselves has 4 steps. Step 1. Criticize or judge past behavior. Man, my crosshair placement is so bad. Step 2. Tell yourself to change, instructing with word commands repeatedly. Keep your crosshair up, keep your crosshair up, keep your crosshair up. 3. Try hard and make yourself do it right. And then step 4. Critical judgment about your results, leading back to a self-one vicious cycle. Now, the inner game way of improving yourself has 4 much better steps. Step 1. Observe your behavior without judgment. My crosshair was knee height and it was nowhere near the corner I got peeked from. Step 2. Picture the desired outcome in your mind. Okay, ideally my crosshair would be around head height and it would be close to the angle that I know I'm going to get peeked from, but not too close so I have some space to react. Step 3, let it happen. That's right, you just play. You made your observation, you pictured the desired outcome. Now, you just play. And step 4, you calmly observe the results. This time, my crosshair was closer to the wall and it was slightly higher, but still not head height. That is how Galway advises that you can achieve focused concentration in practice and in competition. Instead of giving into your thoughts, let yourself do what you are going to do, and rather than judging all your actions, be aware of them, and trust that with the knowledge of how they should be, your improvement will be constant and steady. You can check out The Inner Game of Tennis by Timothy Galway in the description below. If you enjoyed and want to see more, you can like and subscribe. Hope to see you next time. Peace.